before we get into the Rotten Tomatoes and the synopsis and everything here in our initial reactions, like what did we watch to prepare for Knock at the Cabin, Ricky Flex?
Let's see. So I watched Signs. I rewatched Signs.
Me too.
Um, and that made sense, right? Because this one was just in a cabin. That one's just in a house for the most part.
Mhm.
So the confined space, family, like that's like a natural,
It's like one for
like
one.
exactly. So obviously different circumstances, but still like end of the world circumstances. So I watched that one. Um, I watched. I did rewatch The Happening.
Wow. I've
I
never seen
rewatched
that.
it. I rewatched it, and I'll tell you one thing. I think that's the worst movie I've seen since we started this, or I've watched since starting this podcast. It's that bad. I was while watching the movie because I was just like, holy crap! Like this is just so bad. Like how on earth is this going on? And the scenes where like the happening, like with the events happen, it's sick. Like it's actually like awesome filmmaking. But then Mark Wahlberg is just so bad. Zoe Deschanel, so bad. Like the actors were just atrocious. The dialogue was terrible, but the actors themselves did not help whatsoever. They were acting so bad, Doctor, that I honestly kept getting the thought of like not another superhero movie or not a superhero movie and like parody movies. I just
Like
kept thinking,
spoof.
yeah, like it's like they're doing this on purpose.
The way they're
It made
speaking too.
yeah,
That's
like the way
yeah.
they're speaking, exactly. So it's like, oh, and then like what the event is just so dumb. Like the dumbest thing it is that was just like, holy crap, M. Night, like you gone way too far. And the Jared Leto comp, I like it. I do think M. Night's a little more reliable than a Jared Leto, but
They're
that
both so
movie is worse
unreliable.
than I think that's worse than anything Jared Leto's ever done by far.
Even then one where he played the guy who murdered John Lennon, Mark David Chapman. He ate ice cream for like a year straight. And that
Right.
movie has like a 7% in Rotten Tomatoes. I don't
This
even
is
bother looking up the title. It's not worth it.
yeah, I forget what it is, but this was just I can't believe I rewatched
27,
it.
27 maybe.
I've been doing the rankings. I want to go lower, but I have it at 5%
Dude,
right now.
I feel like there hasn't been a movie that's been harmed more through public discourse than The Happening. Like it's almost like you have to see it to know how bad it is. Or it's like the one movie that people say, this movie's so bad, you got to see it because you will find no redeeming qualities, but you'll laugh at how terrible it is.
Right,
And also
right.
you'll just shake your head the entire time. And you're talking about the concept. Like we talked about M. Night Shyamalan, like these like horror thriller like concepts that you see like mainly in like Twilight Zone episodes, but he's not afraid to do it on like a large scale blockbuster level, especially with actors like Mark Wahlberg, you know? So but everything I've heard about that movie is just atrocious. And
Atrocious.
it is streaming right now, I believe.
Yes, that's where I watched it on Hulu, I think.
I figured you
Hulu.
didn't pay for it.
Definitely not. But I forgot who was in this movie. Like some of the characters, I don't know, for like 5 minutes. Jeremy Strong. Jeremy Strong is
Wow.
in this movie.
Gotta be early roll
Totally
for him.
forgot
Oh
about
seven,
him.
right?
Yeah, he like had like a southern accent. His introduction, I was like, crap, that's bad acting. Jeremy, no, don't do this. But then later on, when the happening
But the
hits
bad
him,
acting is like
that was actually good.
intentional.
Yeah, yes, everything about how bad this movie is seemed intentional. That's why it's so odd that it wasn't. Like I got to look up budget or sorry, box office because I'm still in shock.
And while you're talking about that,
164 million.
how much?
164.
Wow. So it was a successful movie, like financially.
Yeah, 17% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And that's where like Shyamalan, he still wasn't in the lull we find himself in like today prior to Knock at the Cabin, which is gaining somewhat positive reviews. But that's like Signs is 02. Am I right about that? Sixth Sense, 99, 98, right? So he's like
Success
kind of,
99.
and then what was after that? He did something else.
Unbreakable.
Oh, that was like 2000, right? So he's living
Right.
off the high of that like first three movies there, you know? So he could still get away with that in 07. And people say, okay, it was just a miss, or he was just going for it in a way where he's still trying to maintain that, I don't that like craziness, like that wild reputation, right? What like that experience when you go to the movie theaters. You're never going to experience a movie like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, listen to this. So obviously, The Sixth Sense was like his breakout, right? He did movies before The Sixth Sense, but I've never seen them. I don't really know anyone that has seen them personally. But Sixth Sense '99, Unbreakable in 2000, Signs 2002. What a run! And you could even add The Village in there, '04. Like I think majority of people like that movie. I like it, don't love it. Ending tough for me.
That's an M.
Um,
Night Shyamalan ending right there.
yeah, right. But then like skip The Lady in the Water, I think '06. But listen to this run. You have The Happening, then you have Avatar The Last Airbender,
Yep.
then you have After Earth. Like
Yeah.
you have the absolute worst possible run of any director of all time, maybe. That's actually regarded as being good.
After having one of the most successful at the turn of the century, it being pretty much the top of the industry at the turn of the century. That's crazy. It's like from the highs to the low. It's a roller coaster ride with M. Night. I do want to talk about Signs a little bit because I do think it was a perfect double feature. When I got home for watching Knock at the Cabin with you, it was absolutely brick outside. I'm so glad we were in a movie theater, an
So
overheated
cold.
movie theater at that time. So like you can always count like movie theaters are supposed to be like places on a hot day you go, you know, and cool off. The movie theater we go to, it's the same temperature year round. It is just hot in there, you know. It doesn't matter if it's packed or it's one person alongside you. You are steamy the entire time. So we were thankful we got to the theater on a day it was feeling like -10 outside. So Signs when I got home. This I didn't watch it since I don't know, a few years back, but Mel Gibson pretty good. Like Mel Gibson in a subdued role. I like the end is really bad in terms of the dialogue where he says swing away, but that's like the unintentional funniness. Like I think that we commonly see in M. Night movies. I think he was the star of that movie along with the reveal of the alien. Like the alien looks so cool in that movie. I think also like it has some really cool themes. I thought like it did a good job relating back to the wife at the end of the movie. The writing I thought was pretty good. I didn't like I was expecting worse. And like when I say writing, I'm not talking about the dialogue because that's brutal there. But I also wanted to say something that kind of leads into Knock at the Cabin and a common theme in M. Night movies as well are strong child performances, right? Rory Culkin and Abigail Breslin. Rory Culkin's not as he has some moments where I kind of like I'm like okay maybe like get the camera off this kid for a little bit,
He's good though.
but
He's good.
Abigail Breslin I think also like obviously her like coming to the scene, you know, she does Little
Beast.
Miss Sunshine a couple of years later. And then we like you go to Haley Joel Osment, Sixth Sense, right? And then we even have this movie. I don't have the actress's name on hand.
Oh
I have the
god. You're
cast.
gonna I
Oh,
think
it's
it's Catherine
Kristen
Kristen.
Kristen Cui, CUI. She plays Wen, but it's a common thing where I don't know if he just knows how to talk to children. It's him being a father, right? And him being a family man for so many years. He seems to get the most out of these child actors when like you don't typically see that for most child performances. Like a lot of times it seems like he puts a lot of trust in the child actors when you see a lot of directors trying to like shy away from having them on the camera too long. It's almost like Spielberg's great with like child actors as well. He's done some
Mm.
amazing things. I think M. Night's in that category when it comes to this specific topic, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think it's a great point. The Happening had a child in it, but did not really utilized at all. Like barely any lines of dialogue. But besides that, like yeah, you're right. Like every movie of his is like has a strong performance by
It's
a
never held
childhood
down by the
actor.
kid.
Right. And like the movies that suck, and I just mentioned one that happening, but like The Last Airbender, like young Dev Patel, star now, Oscar nominated actor. Asked After Earth, Jaden Smith, tough. But like The Visit, great. Olivia DeJong, great performance in The Visit. Or DeJong, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think
DeJong.
you know who
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I know you're talking
But
about.
good performance in that in a horror movie.
DeJong.
Split, obviously, Anya Taylor Joy. Like great actress. So like yeah, they not only Thomason McKenzie and old, like not only do you get like younger actors, but they actually become stars, and I respect that.
Yeah. And he still also gets like big names attached to his movies, like James McAvoy doing Split. Like Dave Bautista, he's not exactly the leading man we think of, an ideal leading man in 2023, but he is like someone we see in blockbuster movies and franchises regularly, and he's like itching at the bit to work with M. Night Shyamalan. He still has this like magnetism, like, oh, you're leading an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's just exciting, and it's a good opportunity for a guy like Dave Bautista, where people maybe are losing a little bit of faith in M. Night. Where guess what, Dave Bautista like knows this story, right? The adaptation of this book, award-winning novel from 2018, The Cabin at the End of the World. And he says, maybe this is something where I can really sink my teeth into and people will finally take me seriously. Before we jump into Dave Bautista and the initial reactions, let's go over the Rotten Tomatoes. It's falling at 69% as a critic score, 64% as an audience score. IMDb has it as a 6.4 out of 10, low-key brutal. And Cinema Score has it as at a C. That is brutal. Synopsis reads, while vacationing at a remote cabin in the woods, a young girl and her parents are taken hostage by 4 armed strangers who demand they make an unthinkable choice to avert the apocalypse. Confused, scared, and with limited access to the outside world, the family must decide what they believe before all is lost. And then I should also mention, this is based on Paul Tremblay's award-winning 2018 novel, The Cabin at the End of the World. And yeah, so Ricky Flex, initial reactions, walking out of the theater into the negative 10-degree weather and into your warm car. What was going through your mind after Knock at the Cabin?
Start the car. It had to be Dave Bautista. This was his movie. I believe it now. I'm all in. Like I was in on him being a real actor, but I think this just cemented it. This was a performance. This was a true blue, like I'm not going to say leading man, but I will say like it should be in more movies where there's serious dramas. He's a good actor. Confirmed. The Rock, we cannot confirm. We might be able to confirm he's a bad actor maybe, but we cannot confirm he's good. We can confirm now that Dave Bautista is good. And I was just shocked at the obviously Gentle Giant in this movie, and his presence is there. He got a little bit of action, but most of it was not due to the acting was not like physical. A lot of it was just him, his emotions, reactions, and just conversations. A lot of monologues here, a lot of speeches. Sometimes there's that one near the end with the TV. I know you're talking about. That was a little funny when it's not supposed to be, but that's not his fault. At the end of the day, he was able to handle pages upon pages of speeches and dialogue and perform it very well and really able to convey to the audience like what is going on and effectively. I was blown away by the performance. Nothing like I'm saying like just to be clear, I'm like setting the expectations as like I'm not like blown away as in like Oscar nominated or anything like that. I'm just saying great job. This is a performance that should be regarded going forward saying, yeah, just look to this. I'm good.
I agree with you 100%. The takeaway from this movie is Dave Bautista. And that is saying something because when you go to see an M. Night Shyamalan movie, like usually M. Night Shyamalan takes center stage. It's the moments, the twist at the end, okay, or the concept or how absurd the movie is. And it's usually about the ensemble more than one person. And this was the Dave Bautista show. And I do think the entire cast was great. And we'll go into their performances too. But you nailed it. Like the Gentle Giant, he was so genuine and it felt like so emotionally in touch compared to everything we've seen him do. And you could tell he almost realized this was like an opportunity for him. Like this is the best chance he's had at becoming or showing off he has the chops to be a leading man. And in a movie where it kind of like it kind of relies on paranoia. Who do you believe? Do you believe the family or do you believe like not even do you believe the family? Like, are you buying that these invaders, right? These home invaders, do you believe what they're saying about like what they're selling, their theory about the end of the world? And when they want you to think like and hold you on the edge of your seat, like, are they telling the truth or not? Like every time Dave Bautista spoke, I was like, he's telling the truth. Like there is no way he's not telling the truth just because he just seems like he's genuine. He believes everything he's saying. He makes the connection with the younger girl. I thought the opening scene to this movie was amazing. And it told me once I saw that opening scene, that one-on-one with, right, the little girl, I was like, okay, this is Dave Bautista's moment. This is gonna be his movie. So I was thoroughly impressed there. We can go more into like the performances, I guess, here. Like what'd you take away from we have Jonathan Groff here and his husband in the movie, Ben Aldrich. We got Rupert Grint as one of the home invaders, Abby Quinn, Nikki Amuka Bird. Like I guess what are your takeaways from the cast overall, which usually have a strong or like are a focal point in Shyamalan movies?
Cast overall was good. Like overall was good. I would say like if I had to pick like one nitpick out of the cast, I think it would be Rupert Grint. I don't think he was great.
Mhm.
I don't think it was bad. I don't know. I think everyone else, they did something for me. He was just like his whole character in the movie too. No spoilers, but also that was negative for me in the movie as well. I think that was not the greatest attempt at bringing a minor storyline into the major story here and amid the major plot line. And I thought that didn't really work that well. But other than that, like Kristen Cui, the girl in this, very good, very good. Can't complain. Not annoying at all. Not annoying at all. I don't remember a time I was like rolling my eyes, like please, like be quiet, like I do with some movies, like in The Visit. The boy in The Visit pissed me off a lot. Like here, didn't piss me off. And then Ben Aldrich and Jonathan Groff. Like I always root for Jonathan Groff, Mindhunter. Like, oh, I love that show. I love Jonathan Groff. And Ben Aldrich, I thought was good too. And they're good, like opposites, like type of characters. But at the end, like obviously they're married, and I believe that they were a family. So at the end of the day, the cast was good. If I had one hiccup, maybe Rupert Grint.
I just felt bad for Rupert Grint. You know, it just seemed like this was also a guy who's looking for an opportunity, doesn't get to be in these blockbuster movies anymore after being in Harry Potter for all these years. And like the treatment of his character in this movie, I was just like a little upset with. And I felt like it could have been, I don't know, just like you'll see, I don't know spoilers right now, but I was just upset with the way they handled him. And I do want to say Jonathan Groff to me was like a number two behind Bautista. I thought he worked well with what Shyamalan was trying to do with the camera here. It felt like a lot of people are talking about the zoom ins that are done on this movie, but like the change in emotion, you could see Jonathan Groff, like you could see his mindset changing throughout the movie every time the camera zoomed in on him. And to me, it was so clear with his character more so than any others, right? Like Ben Aldrich's character was pretty one note in my eyes. To me,
Yeah,
it was
you're right.
Jonathan Groff was Jonathan Groff was the one that was more like processing throughout the movie, you know, and like it was just he had the much tougher role to play, in my opinion. The rest of the supporting cast, solid. Nikki Amuka Bird, I thought was okay too, right? As one of the home invaders. I believed her genuinely, just like I believed Bautista, but just Bautista was just so powerful, I guess, with his performance and like just having that gentle giant and that presence like on the screen, literally the physical presence here, you just really like took your breath away. Okay. Where else do we want to go here?
I also just
Go ahead.
mentioned,
What?
just real quick with the Rupert Grint, I also was surprised what the way that character's outcome was, and the timing of it, because like he worked with, or he continues to work with M. Night on the Apple TV series Servant. So that's like obviously like how he
Oh
got
yeah,
this
he's doing
part most likely. So it's just like a very surprised if someone that like is trying to make a comeback here, Rupert Grint, trying to make his own way in Hollywood without the attachment to Harry Potter, and this is what happened to him. So it's gonna be interesting to be in the next M. Night movie, or can he get another one? Perhaps it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, maybe it's just like a stepping stone for him, like to get back on the path of being in movies again. You just got to feel for the guy because he's always going to be Ron Weasley. You know, it's just like he hasn't been able to kind of break free from the mold the way that like Daniel Radcliffe has attempted to, right? At least he's trying and he's getting these roles. And then Hermione, right, with Emma Watson, still trying to like kind of break away, taking a break from acting. Did Little Women a couple years back. When it comes to like the setting here, though, Ricky Flex, like the cabin, did you find the setting here effective? Did it work for you? I'll personally say I thought it worked because the movie felt brisk. It felt like the pacing was well done. Sometimes in like a one location, one setting, right? Almost play like it can be too much at times where it's like I'm spending 2.5 hours in this one place. It gets tired. I don't think the setting got tired here. I think it was a somewhat effective use of flashbacks, but overall worked pretty well. And we've seen it gone wrong. Like some people are very critical of The Hateful Eight. The Hateful Eight, it's like a 3-hour movie in that one setting. Seems like people kind of get tired of like the interactions, the continued ones from the same characters, the continued behavior from these characters. I thought they played it well with the one setting here.
Yeah, I agree. I like the cinematography, very good in this movie. Lighting, the shots of the up close
Mm.
shots. Same cinematographer as The Lighthouse. Was a co-cinematographer on this movie, so that confined setting there, the paranoia activity within that setting, like that the tight quarters, that makes sense. That was all good. Um, I will also just say like the actual cabin itself, and and the characters in it. Um, like they didn't really venture outside of that, and I like that. I like keeping it in the close quarters. That keeps it simple, keeps it for us, because we don't really care what's going on until like the. I'm trying to do it without spoilers. Until like stuff starts happening,
It's kind
and
of
I
hard with the
think
M Night, yeah.
right as like there's four of them, and like there's clear beats in this movie with what happens to them. So it's easy. That's like an easy, like that's the end of the first act. That's the end of the second act. There's the climax and then there's the ending. So like it made it easy with the pacing, right? With the home invaders and the outcomes of them. So overall, like I totally agree. That's another thing with M. Night, where a lot of his movies are usually 90 minutes. And like they're brisk, like you said, but they're coherent for the most part, as
Mhm.
in we're going with the story. Or like where they're trending towards. So I do appreciate that. And this one's no different.
I do also want to talk about you had like the tropes of an M. Night Shyamalan, brisk, good pacing. Typically, uh, we didn't really get a huge twist at the end of this movie. And I think this is not really a criticism, just something I was surprised by. Uh, is that it was pretty predictable. There was no moment where I was like I thought like, okay, what's he gonna do to kind of like change the trajectory of what audiences think right now? How is he going to put this in a way where it's not uh what everyone's thinking? And I thought he didn't really succeed in that. And I know some people have been critical of like his way he adapted the ending for his movie based on the book. I have no prior knowledge. I never read the book, but a lot of people are upset by it. Like to me, I was just a little bit surprised. It seemed like he almost played it safe a little bit with the ending here.
He definitely played it safe. But again, like usually he writes his own movies like original screenplays. So this is off a book. I think that kind of just restricted him and his creativity with a twist or anything of that nature. And overall, like there's not a built-in twist, but there's a built-in like, oh my gosh, moment already throughout this movie that you don't see coming. And I think there's like a small twist that's in it, and that's like a part where I didn't really like either. But I agree with you. I thought I agree with you, but I think that it was fine. I wasn't too mad about it. It goes against his usual tropes, but I think the movie ended up okay.
And I think something else with M Night here, like a good decision he made, is like to make the parents like a gay couple. I think that was smart because it left the audience on their toes of like the belief of these invaders. Like, are they doing it because they're targeting right this family, right? And like the experiences with the flashbacks that were somewhat effective of like the two parents and like the the oppression that they've felt and like the experiences they've had, the hate they've experienced. And I think it played well into like the development of the characters there. Did the paranoia and the unpredictable and like the paranoia and like not knowing if these people were telling the truth or if this was just a theory of theirs, if it's just a cult, like do you think it was effective in trying to like have audiences kind of unbalanced or like kind of second guess Dave Bautista and crew what the real motivations were?
Yeah, I agree with you, but but it goes back to our Dave Bautista performance talk. Is that I believed him the entire time, like I really did. Uh,
Yeah.
I never really thought that what it was like going to be a twist was going to be. Oh, this is fake. Like I actually believed it, and I think some of the reveals of like their evidence based on like what they had to do every time they said no, I thought could have been done differently. right? And clear and wasn't really realistic. And if I was Ben Aldridge and Jonathan Groff here, I would have been asking some different questions, more specific, and I definitely would have. I think a little unrealistic on that part, but at the end of the day, like I agree with you.
And I guess I want to go into a little bit of flaws of this movie before we get some give some scores. Like for me, like I still like you were talking about them like asking the right questions, right? Groff and Aldrich to Bautista and crew. Like I still don't quite understand how they were all united. I felt like I could have gotten a little bit more information regarding that. They just talk about the idea of message boards, and that's pretty much it. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, there's got to be something else here. How did I still don't understand how they find each other, even like through like these visions that they're having, that they're sharing. Like, just how did they find these message boards? Okay, how did they meet one another? They did so many flashback sequences focusing on the couple. Like maybe a flashback sequence with like the Four Horsemen, right? Might have been a good idea there too. Like what other flaws that you had of this movie? Maybe what do you got?
Yeah, so definitely how they came together in that backstory. Not, I think they could have either spent more time on it or didn't don't spend any time on it. And I was saying how I like at endings of M Night Shyamalan movies. He's very clear. This was not clear at all. It's like it was just kind of lazy, just saying, "Oh, we all had the same vision. We met on a message board and we met at a boardwalk." And then what? And they said a bunch of people that there was more than them. So I was confused with that too. So I guess it starts there. I think inside the cabin, for the most part, like the banter, dialogue wasn't that bad. There was like accidental funny parts that I loved, such as when they introduced themselves, the home invaders, while they're tied up.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. The theater had laughs going. I was just like, what? This isn't the typical home invasion movie. I thought that was actually really good. I would just say again, the Rupert Grint character, some of the storylines from that, the minor storylines that they connected to the major storyline, didn't like those. The two major ones, didn't like those. And then the reveals. There's the reveals of the evidence. I just think you got to be more specific than that. If you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
this specific type of a movie where like this conspiracy and you're asking questions, you're trying to get those answers. I think you have to do a better job, and I think that just comes down to the writing as well. And this book, I don't know when this book was made that this movie's adapted from, but if this book was like a 1960s movie or something like that, or 1960s book, then that's on M Night. I would say that's on M Night for not translating it to the 21st century. But if this book was made in like, I don't know, written like 2017, then it's like, all right, well, maybe don't. That's also M Night be like, hey, don't stick to the book's route. Like you got to get a little more creative and more clear with the audience.
Yeah, and like, you're bringing up like the writing here. I thought the writing was going to be a bit more scary, and I didn't like. I know it's more of a thriller than it is a horror movie, and I like to me it's like the concept is so scary, but like I don't know if the execution was like as scary as like M Night wanted for audiences or like anticipated they were going to feel. Like personally, I get really scared at like horror movies, and like I was never really scared while I was watching this. I was pretty calm the entire time. I don't know if that was just Dave Bautista's presence, but also like the writing choices here where they don't show like the violence. That's like something I was rewatching Shyamalan movies. He rarely shows violence or blood like actually being like a crime actually being committed here. They'll flash the camera somewhere else. They'll have the sounds going, very Hitchcockian influence there, but in that regard, I thought like I don't care if it was scary or not, but I think audiences that think like you're going to get a horror movie can't expect that when you're going in.
I agree. I think the rating PG-13 rating holds it back.
True.
Um, and I like The Visit. Have you seen The Visit?
No.
Okay, that's like a Blumhouse. That's like his first time he like combined with Blumhouse. I think 2014 or 2015 maybe. That was like after the string of bad movies I referred to earlier, After Earth, Last Airbender, and The Happening. Um, that like showed like gore, um, and like more blood and everything like that. Because that's more of a horror movie. This is more of a mystery thriller, and I think that's a lot of M Night movies that you can get away with not showing that and still having that effect, that suspense effect, like that we know from M Night. And I think like the village with the creatures in the woods, you have that in Signs with the aliens. You still have that effect. The score helps as well, and the setting. In this movie, it's just kind of tough because they're not showing what the gore is, but like it's not like any suspense around it because we kind of know after the first one or first time it happens, like, oh, this is happening again. So it's like it kind of takes away the suspense that I was just referring to, that the other, like that PG-13 that you count on because of that rating.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And then like you have M Night like maybe trying to show he still has profitability at the box office, and it's hard to do that with an R movie, you know.
That's a great point.
But it is like a regular thing in his movies where he's not showing like this, like any really gore, you know, it's just like happening off camera. Once again, the Hitchcockian elements there. All right. I think we should hop into some scores here, Ricky Flicks. All right. What did you give Knock at the Cabin from M. Night?
I think overall, like I really like this movie, but I think the flaws that we said for M Night movies, they are pretty big, because the conspiracy, psychological thrillers. But overall, like this movie is all about the Bautista performance for me, and it was great. So I'm gonna go with a 74. All right. I really liked it, but there's a lot of things holding it back to get it in like the upper 70s to 80s.
Yeah, so I had it at 75. Like to me, this is a good watch. This is a fun watch. This is definitely, in my opinion, one of the best Shyamalan movies we've gotten in quite some time. I certainly liked it better than Old, as much as an entertaining and how much I laughed at Old. I come here for Dave Bautista, and I think it's amazing how Dave Bautista has kind of manifested himself as a leading man in Hollywood now. Like we didn't believe him. We almost like dismissed the idea of him becoming a serious actor. And then what he's accrued over the years on his filmography. And then, right, with this performance that might like be his quote unquote breakthrough as a leading man. I think he's going to be doing some great things after this. He's got to be the takeaway. And I would have loved to see an M. Night twist at the end of this movie. But it's one of the rare ones where he doesn't take center stage. He lets Bautista take center stage, and I think it's well deserved from him. M. Night kind of playing it safe, but I think that was a smart move in his career at this point, to be honest.